This is Dion Blumenrader with Big Hoss One Sauce, and you're listening to the best show on all things barbecue with my man, Greg Rempe.
Start the game! Let's go!
Do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike your match, and... Oh, should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. I originate from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you on your Tuesday evening's live fire fun and frivolity show. By the way, lest anyone think that they have come up with the words fun and frivolity as it relates to live fire cooking shows, incorrect. I'm the one that has coined the phrase. I didn't coin the phrase fun and frivolity in general, but as it relates to the world of live fire, no one else, and I am warning everybody else.
I'm warning you with peace and love.
I'm warning you with peace and love. Anybody else that has a barbecue and grilling show that uses the terms fun and frivolity could be in for it. And I'm saying that with peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
But again, I am the one that has coined it in this niche in the live fire community. Live fire. In fact, it is such a part of my show. It has been coined the live fire fun and frivolity show. Lest anyone think, if you hear it anywhere else, know that those people are charlatans. Thieving from my very success, from my creativeness. Nobody else is coming up with fun and frivolity as it relates to barbecue, because guess what? It's not fun and it's not frivolity. But I make it fun and frivolous. Why not? Let's not take ourselves too seriously. Let's mix in a dose of fun and frivolity when we talk about live fire cooking, barbecuing, grilling, you name it. Offset cooking, smoke roasting, as my friend Stephen Reichland likes to say. So don't fall victim to such shenanigans nor charlatans that are running amok amongst this industry. Anyway, way off topic, but here we go. If you want to jump in and talk to me this evening.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Guy the Cooking Sam on YouTube says that he introduced hilarity and hijinks into the sheet metal trade. Good for you. Guy the Cooking Sam, never, ever disappointing when he is inventing in the sheet metal trade business. Tack welding doesn't want any of that, Sam. What about a stock bar cutter? You got some hijinks and shenanigans with that? Nevertheless, anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening. Well, folks, it is finally here. This day has arrived. Believe it or not, we will be joined by first-time guest, a Cowboy, and a Chuckwagon Cook. Perhaps you can use those terms interchangeably. We'll find out in about 10 minutes from now. Kent Rollins has joined us. Sans Skeeter, of course, but Kent Rollins will be joining us. In fact, barbecue jeweler to the stars. You would remember him as Steven DeFranco, the biggest fan, one of the biggest fans of Kent Rollins, was the initial spark into having this rundown over the last number of months. Allowed me to take the book to St. Louis this past weekend, where I skimmed through some of the recipes, but really took in a lot of the anecdotes and personal stories that he has scattered through the book as well. So very much looking forward to talking to Kent about chuckwagon cooking, about being a cowboy, about keeping up an old era of cooking, a generation's past almost to a certain degree, and then how he has infused technology into what he is doing as well to grow the brand. So looking forward to meeting and talking with Kent Rollins, a cowboy and chuckwagon cook. Then after Kent, we will be joined by a Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer, and he is the live fire journalist when it comes to the world of barbecue and grilling. Fourth Tuesday of the month, first hour, regular guest Derrick Riches will be joining the show. As always, we'll be talking about something called a nuke, and I'm not talking about missiles, although it does have the potential of getting very hot. But we'll be talking about something called a nuke, or a Puma made by Nuke. It's something along these lines. Derrick has his hands on an advanced issue of one of these. By the way, allow me to back out as I am introducing what Derrick and I will be talking about. If you traditionally watch this show on Facebook, I will get to that here in a sec. So Derrick Riches and I will be talking about a number of topics as we do usually. Then we will move to the second hour. Embedded correspondence, of course, 14 past the hour. But then, oh, sweet Jesus, amen, and Christ, the debut of Season 2. That's right. You know it. You wanted to have it back. You clamored for it immediately after it found its way out. That being American Idol Season 2. Barbecue Central Show edition. Jeff Rice is back to defend his title. Rusty Monson is a new competitor. John Solberg and Doug Scheiding and myself are back for Season 2 to try and win the title back from Jeff, but we'll see how it goes from here. But we have all of our songs at the ready. 5 songs, so that means it's a 5-month-long session, if you can believe it or not. Notwithstanding the competitors, the judges are in full effect. They have been overtly critical of me over the last number of weeks, just in general, so I can only imagine what they will be bringing to the table on the judges' side of things. In fact, so excited to be a judge for Season 2, the oldest Bobby is joining us from none other than the Hill itself, Seton Hill University in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. So we'll be talking with her on the remote, but the other two will be here in studio as usual. So looking forward to starting Season 2 of American Idol Barbecue Central Show edition. Once again, Jeff Rice will be back to defend his title. Rusty Monson, the newest competitor to the show, and then John, Doug, and myself, year number 2, seeing where that will go for us. Don't forget, you can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and the Snaps. /RD Rempe at YouTube for a live video feed, /BBQ Central Show on Twitch for a live video feed. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, I changed nothing. I'm a creature of habit when it comes to the show and the setup and the technology. I refuse to change when it works, and I have it dialed in. However, for whatever reason, Facebook has decided to take a dump on the show tonight. I'm getting your emails. I'm getting the text messages. But go on to the Facebook group page, Barbecue Central Show group. That's a thing. Answer a handful of questions to make sure you're not weird. And, hey, have at it. Go ahead. watch me there. I'm sure next week, for whatever reason, I'll be back where I need to be. But at this stage of the game, the normal Barbecue Central show feed is not...
Andrew, you are not the father.
The regular Barbecue Central show feed is not working. So go to the Barbecue Central show group feed on Facebook, and you can see it there, or go to Twitch/BBQ Central Show, or go to /RD Rempe on the YouTubes. Whatever you like. I'm here for you. Or do what most people do. Get it after the fact. Watching live really isn't that great anyway. In fact, I hate it live. I hate it live. Kent Rollins may or may not be joining me. Hopefully we wigged out the time zones, but, time will tell, folks. I see Derrick's in the green room, ready to take in a little Kent Rollins pregame before we get to him. Derrick has no idea how close he might be to pulling 2 segments, and he's not even ready for it. But we'll see. Hey, let me talk to you quickly about Yoder Smokers. Designs and builds all of our products in the United States of America, and building pride through craftsmanship and world-class customer service is the backbone of how Yoder's has built the company. This approach translates into what could be truly bespoke-style product that elevates gatherings with friends and family, and we're honored to have the trust placed in the backyards of America. From pellet grills to wood-fired offsets and charcoal grills, consistent blue ribbon flavor has become synonymous with the Yoder Smokers name. Make no mistake, Yoder Smokers' flavor-driven design is unique to each style of pit, and our team has developed our cookers to perform time and time again while outlasting the competitions for generations to come. It's this generational thought that is rooted in our handsome products that define the integrity and core values. American-made quality and endless flavor are the benchmarks of Yoder Smokers. Visit yodersmokers.com and grab yours today. That's yodersmokers.com. In fact, Cleveland celebrity and my best pally, Iron Chef Michael Simon, owns a Yoder Smoker. Offset Cimarron, I believe, is the model that he uses, but you can go to Yoder Smokers and figure out which one fits you best. The Cowboy Cook is in the green room, and we will be getting to him here shortly. Kent Rollins is ready to go. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by the BBQ Guru, creators of automatic pit temperature control technology, sellers of ceramic cookers with built-in power draft fans and accessories to make your barbecue and grilling life easier. Visit bbqguru.com for more information or call 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. All right, my first guest tonight might be more home on the range than in an actual home. While technology is proliferating at incredible rates across this land, a simpler way of life and cooking is being carried on year after year by a true cowboy and Chuckwagon Cook. Many of you have already taken in his book, A Taste of Cowboy. You subscribe to his YouTube channel. You've seen him on TV many times as well. We race to the hotline and welcome in first-timer to the show, Kent Rollins. Hey, Kent.
Hey, Greg. Thank you so much, my friend, for having us on. It is a great day, and it's good to see you, my buddy.
It is absolutely great to see you, and glad we could put this together. Very excited to talk to you. So, Ken, everybody knows you as a cowboy and a Chuckwagon cook. But if we go back into the history books of the Rollins family, do we indeed find a deep-rooted lineage of past cowboys prior to you?
Oh, yeah. There was my oldest brother was as good a cowboy as there was, but my dad and a bunch of the the old timers that run around with him were just true cowboy. I mean, to me, being 7, 8, 9 years old, they stood like legends, like giant oak trees. And I just wished I'd have paid more attention or had a tape recorder on at times so I could remember some of that stuff. But no, it goes back a long way.
Is it something in your blood? I'm going to get to the definitions of cowboy, chuckwagon cook, and all that stuff. But do you find that, over your many years of talking with other cowboys, that it is a calling or it's in the blood for these guys?
It has to be not only in your blood, Greg, but in your heart. And when you have something that's in your heart like that, and it's your desire to become really well at it, and you grew up in it, it just makes it that much easier. So, yeah, it's I guess it was in my blood or in the grit because we had a lot of sand blowing down here at times.
Kent Rollins joining me here on the show. KentRollins.com is his website, and you can subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. 1.62 million of you, as of earlier today, are currently doing that, so very popular. Kent, in your own words, how do you define cowboy, and can a chuckwagon cook also be a cowboy, or are they separate entities on the plane?
Well, to me, if you define cowboy, and it's totally different than what you might see portrayed on the movie screen so many times. First of all, he's a man that is kind, is generous. He wears a hat. He tips it to all the women, opens the door. He has very, very well-mannered and behaviored, not only horses, but himself. And it's steward of the land. They are out there in Mother Nature nearly every day, and they get to take care of what is set there in front of them. And whether they own the cattle that they're taking care of, or they're working for a big outfit and taking care of somebody else's cattle, they're riding for that brand, and that's what it takes. And as far as the second question was, can a cowboy be a chuckwagon cook, or a chuckwagon cook be a cowboy? Now, years ago, it was known going down the trail that it might have been an old retired cowboy or somebody that got tired of riding and just went to cooking. But I worked both sides of it, and I think that's why cowboys respected me so well. I've been on the branding fire side, and I've been on the cooking side. So it made it pretty easy for me to transition. I had a lot of early culinary training from my mother, and so cooking came natural, but so did cowboy.
Ken, I agree with you. I think for the majority of us that have no idea about the industry's inner workings, you see it on television, you see a Clint Eastwood, you see a Blazing Saddles, you see whatever soup du jour of Western is on the TV at this point, or television show, and it really seems to be portrayed in one way from a high level. You don't see the inner workings of stuff, or there's good guys and bad guys and lawmen, and that's it. How does the business of ranches work? Like, when are you contacted to either be a cowboy or to cook, and how do you even get in those circles to work?
Well, it goes back a long way, Greg, from when it started. Old Cookie going down the trail so many years ago in the 1880s. He had the true first Meals on Wheels ever invented, I think, when he was traveling down the trail. But I've been a cowboy and still am, and I'm very proud to say that is something that I'll never give up, but also a chuckwagon cook. Now, there was some old cooks out there who were mean and contrary and very, very ill-tempered, and that's what a lot of people portrayed a cook as so many times, especially when I was young and little. I'm thinking, that's the meanest old man I've ever seen in my life, but they weren't. Some of them were really good cooks, and some of them were really bad cooks. But you never complained. That was not proper cowboy etiquette, to ever say anything about the cook. And he's probably the most important man on a drive, because if you've got a good cook, you'll have a better crew because they look forward to it. And, word of mouth goes a long way. Shan used to ask me, she said, "You have an email address?" And I said, "Yeah, Route 1, Box 318. She said, "No, that's not it." And but the cowboy circle, whether it be from South Texas to Montana to the Great Basin country of Nevada and Utah, word travels fast. Hey, this guy's a great cook, or this guy's a great cowboy. Y'all need to hire him. And for years, people would try to schedule their brandings and spring works around our availability to be a cook. And we're still fortunate enough to get to carry some of that on today because it's something we're not going to give up. So, hey, it's a great day above the grass, my friend.
Ken, is it a nomadic life then for a cowboy? I mean, will you find him in Texas for this part of the year and then he goes up to Utah because they're doing whatever they're doing up there?
There is a lot of that in what we call a bedroll cowboy. You know, he'll have a horse, maybe a dog, 3 or 4 ropes, bedroll, and a teepee, and he can start in South Texas in January and end up, you know, far north Montana from June, July, and August, and then turn around and go back. So there is a lot of what we call day workers, but they do a lot of traveling, and it is very nomadic at times. You know, I've fed some of the same crews for years and years and years, and then be on different ranches and not know anybody there. But it's a great lifestyle. It's very long and demanding at times, but they love what they do, and I love what I do.
I talked to a lot of the folks in the trades here. I'm in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio. We're getting some concrete poured here, and I talked to the owner of that company, and he says, you know, the biggest issue I have right now isn't the work. It's finding somebody that wants to come and do this work with me and for me. I might have a guy for a week or two, and then, you know, they're off to chase another 75 cents an hour, or they don't like the work. Is there a younger generation of cowboy coming up?
Yeah, I don't think maybe as much as there was, you know, at one time, but there's still some young fellers out there that's going to try to fill some saddles when some of them are a little long in the tooth, as they say. And there's still a lot of cowboys out there. You know, people say, hey, you're a dying breed. And I say, no, you can't see us going down the interstate 90 miles an hour, but we're still there. You know, as long as there's cows, there'll always be a need for a cowboy. And some of the most remote and rugged country that you can find is where some of the best cowboys are.
If you're the best cowboy or considered to be one of the better cowboys out there for works, what kind of money can you pull in during the course? I mean, like, do you get paid per year, or is it like per session, or what?
It's per day. You know, it goes back from way back in the trail drive days. Cook made twice what the Cowboys did. And I can remember the first ranch I cooked on, I was making $40 a day. Cowboys making $20. We were there about 4.5 weeks, you know, and you look back at it from now times to back then, it's a lot of money back then, because when you're in there 4 weeks making $40 a day, you thought you'd won the lottery when you get out, you know. But there's wages that I hear of people, you know, when we were day working and stuff and not cooking so much, you was lucky to get $75 to $100 a day. But there's places now that are going to pay $150 to $200 a day for a good hand because they know they're worth it.
Kent Rollins joining us here on the show, and you can find him at kentrollins.com. Kent, you know, I had no real knowledge of the cowboy and Chuckwagon Cook lifestyle prior to, you know, really learning about you and then getting through that book this past weekend. And I guess I was attributing to a lot of old ways that maybe were just coming out of vogue. Time had passed, and part of that industry would advance with the times. But indeed, from what I was reading and watching on the internet, a lot of that has remained the same. Certainly there's been some advancements, but by and large, you've really seen not a lot of change. So how much has remained the same, let's say, over the last 50, 60 years, and how much has changed over that time?
Well, you know, you go back to the early 1900s especially, and before there was so much railway system back then, you still had to push cattle a long way to get it to market. You know, at one time when they was going up the Chisholm, they started south in San Antonio, and they'd go to Dodge City, Kansas or Abilene, put cattle on a rail and ship them anywhere in the world. It's not that way anymore. You know, a lot of these ranches are 290 to 350,000 acres, some of them that are great big and large. And one pasture might be 17, 18,000 acres. So you gather cattle in the same way that they did so many years ago, and you take it to a set of pens to work them cattle and vaccinate or wean. But back in the day, they were driving them a whole lot farther. You know, they were going 14 miles a day if they could, sometimes 15 to get to somewhere. But it's different. The I won't say technology, because that's really a bad word at times for a cowboy, because they get lost in it if they're like me. But there hasn't been a lot of change in the way that it takes place as far as a horse, a saddle, and a rope and a good cowboy. That's went on for over 100 years, and it's something that'll never change. Sure, that the livestock that's there, there's always a great need for beef, but there's always got to be somebody that takes care of it.
Ken, let's go ahead and transition a little bit into some of the cooking stuff. From a high level, what are the staples of any good Chuckwagon cook?
Well, I think the first thing, and I know when I started cooking, and there was a lot of them old timers that was still there, and they called anybody that was 20 years younger than them a button, and there's a great code of ethics in a cow camp, and you never come under the tarp or the fly around the wagon unless they were invited. And they would just stand off out there, and of a morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're going to judge you on coffee right off the bat. Now, they're not going to say nothing, but I learned through the years, if they drink 1 cup and they go on, maybe they're not coffee drinkers. But if they drink 6 or 8 cups, it's all right, and it's always sort of been that way. The younger generation, you don't see as many coffee drinkers as you did. They'll break out a bottle of water or something like that. But coffee's first thing on every morning, last thing off. And there's always a need for that as long as the day lasts. I mean, I've kept coffee hot on a fire or on that old wood stove of mine all day long and don't throw it out till nightfall, right before I retire, me and Shan. So it's one of the things that they're really known for. But probably the other is the sourdough biscuits. I used to hear them whispering, when I was first starting, and then they'd say, "That guy can cook a biscuit," and it's sure there's an art to cooking it, but there's also an art to making it, because just like old Cookie going down the trail so many years ago, we use sourdough starter in the same way he did. Ours is not traditional that I use a quick set, but still the same. And then they're going to judge you on dessert. They're like I say, they're not going to ever tell you anything, but when they come back and fill that plate 3 times, they don't have to tell you nothing. It's worth eating.
Ken, a lot of notoriety, and maybe I'm just focusing on you because you were the subject of interview this week, but you seem to get a lot of notoriety, especially when it comes to the use of cast iron pieces, whether it be pans, Dutch ovens, things of this nature. Is that more of a Kent Rollins thing, or is really that more of a Chuckwagon thing, because those are the items that you need to take with you to be a successful cook on the trail?
Well, cast iron been around forever. There's a lot of good cast iron in the United States, and there's some bad. I've really seen a trend as it began to grow in the last 3 to 4 years. But you can buy a cast iron skillet, a good one, something that's made in the USA, and it will outlast every one of us if you take care of it. We have some that have been handed down from generation to generation. And sure, that's what's on a wagon, that and Dutch ovens, because you're going to bake in a Dutch oven. I can fry in a 20-inch skillet. So they've always been a part of my life. My mother had them. My grandmother had them. Every old timer that we knew had one. And to me, there's nothing more, I better not say that. There's nothing any more healthier that you can eat out of than a piece of cast iron, because you're going to absorb iron from it, especially if it's a baked good.
Ken Rollins joining me here on the show. You had prefaced in the previous answer saying that coffee was the first thing on, first thing off. And you can see, in the book, there's Cowboy Coffee on YouTube. There's Cowboy Coffee. You have videos on YouTube of other tools making Cowboy Kent Rollins coffee, and they mention your name like 75 times through. When Cowboy Kent Rollins does the coffee, he does it like this. Now Cowboy Kent Rollins says he does it like this. Can you talk to me about Cowboy Coffee and how you make it and why? I mean, if you've read the book, it might be a little bit of a redundancy here, but for the folks that are just tuning in or just learning about you, what makes boiling coffee a better cup of coffee in your opinion, or from what the folks are giving you feedback, what are they telling you?
Well, everybody said I didn't know it could be this smooth. We've always made coffee the same way, and when you can take one of them big old 2-gallon pots and fill it with water right below the spout, and then add you 3 handfuls of coffee, which is about 2.5 cups. Let it come to a rolling boil. Don't boil it over, but a good rolling boil. I'm not talking just a pit and a patter. I'm talking rolling for about 4 or 5 minutes, pretty hard. And then just set it off the fire, let it cool a minute, pour you about a cup of cold water down the spout, and all the grounds will settle to the bottom. Now, after the big lawsuit many, many years ago where somebody got a little hot from some McDonald coffee, most places turned their water down to below about 191, long in there. Now, when you heat coffee on that old wood stove of mine or over an open fire, you're getting well above the 212, I promise you.
I heard it was like 647,000 degrees last I heard.
Yeah, that is right. And but when you do, you break down the tannin in the bean, which removes the acid. Because people say, oh, I'd love to drink coffee, but it gives me acid indigestion or it gives me acid reflux. And I say, if you make it right, it won't. And folks, I've had so many comments on YouTube from Cowboy Coffee through the years. They'll guarantee it. You know, we did a special 2 years ago with Jeff Goldblum on just coffee. And he told me, he said, I didn't know coffee could be this smooth. And I said, if you make it right, it'll always be smooth.
Who's the most interesting person you've run across during your years here, outside of the cowboy stuff? But you've been on television, you do a lot of public-facing events. It doesn't necessarily have to be a celebrity, but who really captured your fascination as you were talking to them?
Well, I think Mr. Goldblum was, I didn't even know who he was. And Shan said, yeah, he's the guy that was in Jurassic Park. And I said, I don't know. But the crew was all out of London. Nat Geo was putting the deal on for Disney. And he's a great guy. I don't think he knows a whole lot about coffee because he told me he hadn't had a cup in 5 years. And I said, well, we're finna caffeinate you really good here, But I'd say he stands out, quite a bit as being somebody that was a little odd to come into camp. Now, sure, I'm going to make him feel welcome as we do everybody. But he's a tall man. He has to bend over when he comes under the fly. But he was good people. And I can remember many, many years ago meeting an old man on a ranch. And he was a great feller. I'd heard of this man through the years. His name was Tom Blassingame. But for him to eat your cooking and brag on it was a great deal, So if I had to say there was one person that stood out that'd eat my cooking that I'm really impressed with, I'd say that was Shannon, my wife. And she says that's how I got her.
I was going to say, does that lead to a love story? Like, how do you guys meet?
Yeah. She's from Elko, Nevada, which is good cow town. It's good ranch people. She said she didn't know a lot about cooking at the time, but at the time, Elko Cowboy Poetry Gathering, which is one of the largest in the nation, was having an event, and they hired me to come and entertain and do a cooking workshop, which was going to be chicken fried steak, sourdough biscuits. Well, Shan was in charge of the workshop. And I can remember telling her, I'm going to need a crock jar and I'm going to need this and I'm going to need this. And all she did was laugh, and I'm thinking, boy, this gal thinks I'm funny. I found out many years later, she just laughs when she's nervous. She said she couldn't understand any okie that I was throwing out there, but we remained friends for a long time. She asked me about a website and I said, no, I ain't got one of them. And she said, well, I sort of could help you out with that. And I'll tell you what you do. I'll do a website and I'll come down there to cooking school and take some pictures, and then you'll have them on the website. Well, she come to cooking school, and then a year later, she come back to cooking school, and then another year later, she come back again. Then I finally married her so she could graduate, and now she runs a cooking school. So you know how that circle goes, Greg.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Cowboy smelled a return visitor after the second or third time, and it was time to make her yours. So I certainly appreciate that.
Well, she is truly the best thing. I mean, she took a part of me that didn't know this world even existed, from coming off ranches and everything. And I'd tell her stories, and she'd say, "Hey, you're going to have to write a blog." And I said, "I don't think so." But I know my way around a computer pretty good due to her. But she's a great marketing person, but also she's a great cook. She's a great photographer. She's been on ranches with me that are nearly 300,000 acres when it was in conditions that a lot of people wouldn't even be in. There's no spa days. There's no holidays. And she's tougher than a boot.
If you haven't gotten the book, go ahead and grab your copy. It's right here. It is A Taste of Cowboy. By the way, as you were mentioning your wife, Shannon, she's the one that took the photos for that book, correct?
Yeah. The all the pictures in the book, whether they be ranch or food, are by her little camera. Just as our book that come out last year, the new book, Faith, Family, and the Feast, she took all those pictures.
Absolutely incredible. We're talking with Kent Rollins. Kent, really appreciate the time this evening and getting a very quick introduction to you, but I'd love to have you back on a regular basis so we can talk about cooking and cowboying and all that good stuff.
Yes, sir, my friend. It'd be my pleasure, Greg. And you just let me know about a week ahead of time, and I'll sure sit down, because it's good to visit with folks like you. And if we can spread the word and bring a little happiness to somebody and share some food, hey, it's a good day.
All right, Kent, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, brother. Be safe and God bless.
You too. There he is, Kent Rollins right there from KentRollins.com. And again, if you haven't had the book, go out and grab a copy of it. A Taste of Cowboy, Ranch Recipes and Tales from the Trail. That's a tongue twister if you're not a professional orator like myself. So there you go. Kent Rollins. Good first time in. I like it. Very impressive. Next time we'll actually talk about cooking and all that stuff, right? Yes, of course. Right before we get to Derrick, who is ready to go, I'll talk to you quickly about Cosmo's Q, based out of Oklahoma. By the way, Kent, based out of Oklahoma as well, providing both backyard and competition cooks world championship level rub sauces, injection soaks, and brines. Their exclusive wing dust available on the market today as well. Best of all, every one of their products made right here in the States with all natural ingredients. Cosmo's Q continues to break new ground in the rubs, seasonings, sauce, and injection world. And the results are not only proven on the competition trail year after year, but also proven in the backyards as well. More and more backyard warriors looking to take that barbecue game to the next level. There's no better or easier way to do that than by picking world championship quality rub sauces, injections, and marinades. That's exactly what Cosmo's brings to the table. Not only is the barbecue game covered, there's a whole line of products to help amp up that grilling game as well. Cosmo's knows what he's talking about when it comes to grilling, because he is a world championship griller. Now, if you want to save cash, because I know the Centralites love a deal, and you go to cosmosq.com, that's Cosmos with a K, then the letter Q.com. At checkout, enter code SPRINGBBQ10. That's SPRINGBBQ10, and you will get 10% off your entire order each and every time while this promotion is taking place. Once again, hit the website Cosmos with a K, K-O-S-M-O-S, Cosmos with a K, the letter Q.com, and at checkout, enter promo code SPRINGBBQ10, SPRINGBBQ10, and you get 10% off your entire order each and every time as the promo runs. We're back with Derrick Riches right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the BBQ Central Show.
And this portion brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also visit amazon.com if you would rather take that avenue. That is your prerogative. Do whatever one you want. Just get the cooking pellets, all right? Fourth Tuesday of the month brings a visit from the barbecue journalist of barbecue journalists. Breaking news across America, but not more than the show. But really, maybe 1B to my 1A. Derrick Riches joining us. Hey, Derrick.
Hey, Greg. How you doing?
I'm fine. And guess what I'm doing tomorrow? You're really putting some thought into this. I'm coming to Dallas.
Oh, so you'll just be a 4-hour drive from where I am.
Yeah, so I'm telling you now so you can leave after the interview and make a leisurely jaunt up to the capital city of Dallas. Not of the state. I'm just saying capital city of Dallas for no good reason.
The capital's just down that way.
That's right. And I'm going to be doing a work thing the following morning at Peterbilt in Denton, Texas, wherever that is. And I'm flying into Dallas, Fort Worth, and then making a quick slide east, I think, to Knife Steakhouse. You ever heard of that? Knife Steakhouse? John Tezar's place?
Yeah.
Me and some other guy named Daniel Vaughn are going to be solving the live fire world's problems, and I'm going to be giving him what the next Texas barbecue top 50 list is going to be. I hope I didn't say that out loud. Is this thing up? And then I'll be going north to Denton. So just in case you're around, if you happen to find yourself in the area, you're invited to dinner, no problem. So take it as you wish.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
Let me know. Let me know if you're going to be up that way. No pressure, but I won't expect it. Derrick, in a few days, May drops in and National Barbecue Month starts. Also, that means the Barbecue Hall of Fame will announce their semi-finalist of 9 on May 5th on this show in a special feature. And 3 weeks after that, the class of 3 that will actually make up the class of 2021 will be announced on the show on the 26th, which will be a special show as well. Who would you put into the Barbecue Hall of Fame this year, just off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I don't. Well, I'd have to remember who was in it in the first place.
What? You don't know? It's not front of mind?
That Guy Fieri guy's in there, right?
Yes. Yeah. He was like one of the original inductees when the American Royal took it over. I want to say bought it.
I was actually there for it, too.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, actually, that's the first time I met him. Was
great. This is great. But, who cares? Forget the question that I just asked you. Recount that time. Like, what was that like? Was it a rock star event? Were there thousands, dare I say, legions of people waiting to take in Guy Fieri's emceeing of that year's Hall of Fame? What do you remember from it? I mean, years ago, but I mean, it had to have been a pinnacle moment.
Well, I was at the Royal, and I was on press passes, which meant that there was someone from the Royal organization kind of making sure I was herded where I was supposed to be, and assuming I didn't know anything about barbecue or they didn't know anything about barbecue. I don't know.
Maybe let's say they were properly entertaining you.
Yeah, that
seems
was it.
More corporate.
And they had a big VIP event, and it was going on upstairs, and you had to be a VIP to get in. And they're like, "Hey, why don't you go in?" And it's an open bar, which is usually my
Derrick's calling card
reason for going. Yeah. So, and she actually, it was funny because she tagged Rod Gray to escort me up since he was one of the VIPs and going. So I walked up the steps with Rod Gray at the event.
Did he say even one word to you?
Oh, yeah, we talked for a moment. Yeah,
great.
On the way up the stairs. So, he's a nice guy.
I know. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. And so you get up there, and they've got this big room, and they've got food, and they've got the open bar, and there's a whole bunch of people mulling around and everything. And in the back corner is Guy Fieri, sitting in the corner of the room.
Yes.
With his facing the corner.
Oh.
And he stayed there.
Not public facing.
No, not public facing. And he stayed there, and there was a couple of people around him, and he kind of just stayed there until it was time to go out and then, kind of do the event and everything.
Yeah. So, like, you couldn't, did you feel like you're looking at that and you're visually saying, that's the don't approach me look that he's going for?
Yeah. He was around at the event the whole time, and because they did the kind of the kids competition.
Yeah.
And he was kind of running that. And I got the feeling that when it comes to kids, he can just interact with them really, really well. He's really at ease. They love him. He has a lot of fun. But when it comes to like interacting with adults, he kind of shuts off, and it's kind of like this becomes very professional, and you're not to get in my space.
So you didn't.
So yeah, well, I didn't care to in the first place, but
nice.
I mean that's literally my Guy Fieri story. And It's kind of like my closest interaction with him.
Is he the biggest celebrity you've ever been around?
No, probably not. I mean, I did a food and wine thing. I mean, if we're talking food people,
yeah.
Where I was in the tent, kind of doing meet and greets with like Rachel Ray was there, and Bobby Flay was there, So I met him, talked to him for like a minute. I'm sure it was whatever he said was just rote memorization. It was pretty.
That's pretty cynical.
Well, but I understand how these things work. I mean, these are PR events, and it's kind of like we're on message. We're going to say what we're going to say. And, I mean, I've been in that situation where it's kind of like, hey, you're speaking for this. And so here's what we want you to say. So I say that, and then we move on.
Look, I'm going to give you a piece of advice here, Derek. Next time you see Bobby Flay, if you want an in to not get the canned response, say, hey, Bobby, you going to Saratoga in August to buy any fillies this year? Now, make sure that August is in the offing, that it's not November. Or say, or you could say
September
next year,
4th.
I guess. Say, hey, are you going next year? But say Saratoga, and say, are you going to buy any fillies next year?
Just to try and get
he will immediately come off message. Now, you may have cornered yourself here as being some kind of guy that's into thoroughbreds, but that is his passion project, and he only buys fillies. But if you want to get him off message and have him really connect with you or take an interest, then just say that. I'm telling you right now. As a matter of fact, seek him out, try it, and then report back next month and see if it works. And then we will know if I'm right or not.
I'll give him a call. I think I've got him on my speed dial.
Dial him up. In fact, conference him in. Let's see what happens. Nevertheless.
Yeah, let me hang on. Let me see if I can cut him in here.
No. We have no time for that. Let's push forward. Let's push forward. All right. What is the Puma from Nuke, and what do we need to know about it?
Okay, so Nuke is an Argentinian company. They make a variety of grills. They had I believe the model was at the Delta, which came out about a year or so ago. So they're really going towards like traditional Argentinian style grills. And there's a lot of confusion in the names and this sort of stuff. I mean, some people will say it's a Santa Maria style. It's that grill that, has the big arm that goes up and over, and you have that big wheel, and you can raise and lower the cooking grates on it. So this is manufactured actually in Argentina and then imported to the United States. And the Puma is kind of their bigger, more expensive, more authentic model. The Delta they had out before had a lid on it, which is really not Argentinian style grilling.
Right.
So, this unit has, there's like a fire box on one side, which is like a heavy cast iron box, and you light a fire in there and you just kind of lay logs in there. And as the coals kind of fall off the bottom, you kind of stoke it around and the coals fall out, and then you kind of shovel them over onto a big fire brick box area underneath the cooking grate. And, you cook directly off the coals that way. So it's a real live fire, hardwood kind of cooking apparatus that way. And kind of the artistry in it is, you've got that big, grate adjustment, but that's really not what you use to kind of change your cooking temperature. What you want to do is kind of work the coals and get them, piled the way you want them. So, if you're trying to do kind of for instance, it's like you get a big thick tomahawk steak, big 2-inch, there, and you lay it on the cooking grates and you lay the coals around it. So there's nothing underneath it. Yes. And that heat kind of coming up and over it, you'll get that slow roasting process, get it up to kind of a temperature you want to go, and then push all those coals back directly under it, drop it down as close as you can get it. And then you can reverse sear it. You'll get a real high intense cooking temperature. So, this is that style of cooking. It takes a little bit of practice to it. It's nice to kind of, get into like real serious hardwood cooking and doing all that sort of stuff. And it's a very open cooking experience, but once you kind of master it, it's really easy and it's really versatile because, just kind of manipulating the fire, you can get hot and cold zones and medium and just cook all sorts of different things. And it's got a very large cooking area. I've done a couple of steaks and a whole a bunch of chicken and a bunch of vegetables and thrown some burgers and some fish on there. So, there's plenty of room for everything.
What's the price tag?
We're looking at about $2,600 on this.
Is that fair? High?
Which is actually really quite comparable to a lot of similar units that you're going to find. So yeah, I think it's a pretty reasonable price for what it is. I mean, it's about 380 pounds of grill. Oh. So it's, because it's fire brick lined, it's really heavy. Buy at least a 12 pack of beer and have a couple of buddies come over to help you get it kind of like on its feet. But I love that style of cooking. I love that kind of just very back to basic sort of.
Is it I've seen similar stuff like Gaucho grills. I think that's similar in style. You have a big fire off to one side and it's burning down to the coals, and you shovel over to the other side where the cooking happens. So similar to conceptually, I think it's romantic and cool and everything that you're saying, but I wonder if it's like a hyper niche kind of a deal.
Yeah, I don't think it's not for everybody, certainly. And it's not I'm going to come home from work on a Tuesday night and fire up the grill and, cook a big meal. It's a project. You got to kind of love the cooking to really get into it. But I mean, if you do, it's great because, you can do so much with it, and it's very pure kind of form of cooking.
So check that out. And last thing we can hit on this evening, because I got off track with Guy Fieri BS. Tappacue. So if you're looking for an alternative to show sponsor Fireboard, Tappacue might be something that you are interested in. Derrick has a unit that's either for sale or it's coming out fairly shortly. But tell us a little bit about them. And then since you have both, do your own compare, contrast, and pick a winner. And it better be Fireboard.
Actually, Tappacue's been around longer.
Yes, I know.
They came up in about 2013.
Chris Marks was originally in that whole deal too, right?
Yeah, he was. He was actually the first person to kind of get me in on it when it first came out. And so they've come out with a new version. I think they kind of lagged a little bit behind in the technology. The new version has a touch screen to it, so you have a lot of the functionality. And it is quite similar to the Fireboard. Tappacue has 4 temperature ports, but they're dual channel, so you can run 8 probes off of it. And then you have all the Wi-Fi capabilities. Once it's connected to your Wi-Fi, you can go on the app. It's going to store data. You can go back and look at past cooks. You can do all that sort of stuff. But one of the things that they've kind of just released, and this is pretty new in the last month, is they're also putting out their own line of wireless probes. So it's very similar to Meter. Yeah. So it's basically like the Meter probe. It's the same thing. And I don't think actually Meter invented it. I think these have been around several iterations. A lot of people have them. And the great thing about it is that they just automatically sync straight into the Tappacue controller. So it does give you that functionality. And, if you want to buy 8 of them, you could run 8 of the wireless ports, wireless probes at the same time. And Tappacue also has a blower unit, so you have temperature control capabilities. And depending upon the package you're looking at, it does tend to run a little bit cheaper than Fireboard, price-wise. So,
are we moving in an industry to where all these remote thermometers, are you expecting Fireboard at some point next year or maybe this year to introduce their wireless probes? I've asked Ted Conrad for the last 2 years, when are you coming out with this? Because I think that's where it's moving, and I think how well Fireboard has done with the wired stuff, if they could get close to wireless as they have with wired, they can really take that market.
Oh, yeah. Look, the point of failure on these units is the wire. You got to, and they're a hassle to deal with. I hate the wires. But on the flip side, the wireless probes, they have to be charged. There's kind of a downside on that. And they don't have, their life expectancy is somewhat limited. I mean, if you used it a lot, I think you're going to run about a year before they just won't take a charge anymore.
Huh.
But, you can do rotisserie cooking, with a temperature probe in there. You don't have to run a bunch of wires. Tappacue's units, they're all color coded. So, when you bring up the controller, there's 4 different colors, and the probes themselves, whether wired or wireless, are colored. So you know exactly what one you're using. And, it's really convenient that way. So it's really easy to figure out what you're looking at. So, you can do everything with the Tappacue that you can do with Fireboard, but Tappacue's now offering the wireless. And yeah, I think that Fireboard probably needs to get a wireless probe out there.
So are you picking Tappacue over Fireboard then at the moment?
I would say at the moment.
At the moment.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what, the Fireboard is pretty dynamic and they do a lot of innovation. And I know that, they're working on the next version of stuff. So we'll see where we are in 3 months.
Fair enough.
Everything changes.
Fair enough. We'll see how it goes. You can find Derrick Riches over at derrickriches.com, where he is breaking live fire news as it happens. And you can find him here on the 4th Tuesday of every month, visiting with the Barbecue Central Show. Derrick, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in May.
All right. See you in a month.
All right. There he is, Derrick Riches, right there. Great stuff. I love the Guy Fieri story. Good insight there. Not on the outline, but we'll talk about Weber Grills next month. And we'll also talk about maybe some of the best cookers and grills to buy in 2021. How about that? Stay tuned for next month. That's Derrick Riches, derrickriches.com. I'll talk to you quickly about Big Poppa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue and grilling. A curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything at Big Poppa Smokers has been Pitmaster approved by Sterling Big Poppa Ball himself. From award-winning rubs and sauces to American-made grills and smokers, Big Poppa Smokers has everything you need to be a better outdoor cook. Known for the rubs and sauces, right? 13 perfectly balanced flavored rubs. They have Granny's barbecue sauce, which they now own. So if you're looking to get outside of the original rub stuff, try all of the Big Poppa Smokers rubs. If you want to get out of the normal sauce stuff, try Granny's barbecue sauce. Aside from the premium selection of rubs and sauces, they're selling cookers, and you know this. Are you looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use? Check out that Mac 2-Star General pellet cooker. Big Poppa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. Not a fan of pellet smokers? Okay. Take a look at the Old Hickory Ace BP. It's the only charcoal smoker that Big Poppa trusts on his competition trailer. If you're not sure of what grill you need, you really can't go wrong with anything they're selling over there. Have any questions? Call 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or shop the website, bigpoppasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. We are back to wrap the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The BBQ Central Show. Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by none other than Fireboard. Derrick says Tappacue. I say, nonsense. It's Fireboard for me all the way. This segment brought to you by Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Drive, and Fireboard 2 Pro. Monitors up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to the Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa's or the Google's assistants, you're in luck because Fireboard is fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. That's 816-945-2232. Fireboard 2 Drive, Fireboard 2 Pro, and Fireboard 2. We thank Kent Rollins, my first segment guest. We also thank Derrick Riches from derrickriches.com, my second segment guest. And it's all aligning. I'm getting excited for about a half an hour from now. It's all aligning. I can feel it. Which means technological disaster is only moments away.
What?
All right, refresh libations as we move to the second hour. You are listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.